Imagine this: you've been trying everything. You've been visualizing, affirming, and even sticking to all the advice you've heard about the law of assumption. You're doing everything right, and yet, nothing. There's no movement in your external world, no change. It feels like you're stuck, standing still, and you can't help but wonder, what am I doing wrong? This frustration, this deep sense of nothing is working, is something many people experience when they first start applying the teachings of Neville Goddard. But here's the thing: just because there's no visible movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, it's in these moments when everything feels still that the most powerful shifts are often taking place behind the scenes. So what do you do when it feels like nothing is working? How do you stay aligned with your desire when all evidence points to the contrary? The answer lies not in doing more, but in something much deeper, and it's what we're going to explore today. Picture this: there's a man named David. He'd been applying the law of assumption for months. Every day he visualized his dream job, his ideal life, his financial success. He held on to the belief that everything he desired was already his. But weeks turned into months, and still nothing. No job offers, no unexpected windfalls, not even a hint of movement in his career. Doubt started creeping in. Maybe, he thought, this doesn't work. Maybe I'm just fooling myself. Sound familiar? We've all been there. You put in the work, you follow the teachings, and yet the external world stays stubbornly the same. But here's where David's story takes a turn, and where yours can too. One evening, out of sheer frustration, David stopped. He stopped the affirmations, the visualizations, and just sat with his feelings. He allowed himself to feel the disappointment, the frustration, the sense of failure. And in that quiet space, something interesting happened. For the first time, he stopped trying to force his desire into existence. He stopped obsessing over the lack of movement and, instead, surrendered to the moment. Now, surrender is a tricky word. It's not about giving up. It's about releasing the need to control every step of the process. David didn't stop believing in his desire. He simply let go of the need to see immediate results. He trusted that, just because he couldn't see any movement, didn't mean nothing was happening. That night, for the first time in months, David slept without worrying about his manifestations. He didn't check his emails first thing in the morning to see if any job offers had come through. He simply lived his life. And guess what? Within a week, he got a call out of the blue. A job opportunity he hadn't even considered, one that paid more than he had ever imagined, was suddenly on the table. So what changed? Did David magically manifest this opportunity because he stopped caring? Not exactly. What shifted was his inner state. By releasing his attachment to the outcome, David created space for the universe to deliver what he had been asking for all along. The key here is understanding that even when there's no visible movement, the law of assumption is still at work. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Think of it like a seed planted in the ground. For weeks you see nothing. It looks like nothing is happening. But beneath the soil, roots are growing, foundations are being laid. The same is true for your desires. When you're in a place of no movement, the temptation is to try harder, to push more, to force things to happen. But often, this only creates more resistance. The more you try to control the process, the more you signal to the universe that you don't truly believe it's going to happen. And when you're in a state of disbelief, you block the very thing you're trying to manifest. Let's consider another story. Meet Sarah. Sarah had been trying to manifest a loving relationship for years. She'd done all the inner work, healing past wounds, working on her self-concept, visualizing her ideal partner. And yet nothing. Every date she went on was a disappointment. And every time she thought she had met someone promising, it fizzled out. One day, Sarah decided to take a different approach. Instead of focusing on the lack of a relationship in her life, she started asking herself, what if everything is already unfolding perfectly, even if I can't see it? She stopped looking for signs, stopped analyzing every interaction, and simply allowed herself to live in the knowing that her desire was already hers. At first, nothing changed. No miraculous phone calls or chance meetings. But something inside Sarah shifted. She started feeling lighter, more at peace. And in that space of peace, something unexpected happened. While out with friends one evening, Sarah met someone. It wasn't a grand movie-style meeting, it was subtle, easy, and natural. But that connection blossomed into the very relationship she had been trying to manifest for so long. What Sarah and David experienced is something Neville Goddard often spoke about: the importance of persistence and faith, even in the face of no movement. The truth is, the moment you assume something to be true, the universe begins to shift in ways that may not be immediately visible to you. But just because you can't see the movement doesn't mean it's not happening. The key is to trust in the unseen. To trust that, even when it looks like nothing is working, your assumption is creating ripples beneath the surface. And here's where it gets really interesting. Those periods of no movement are often the most important times in your manifestation journey. They test your faith, your belief, your ability to persist even when there's no evidence. Think about it like this: if you could see the full path ahead of you, if you knew exactly how and when your desires would manifest, you wouldn't need faith. But it's in the uncertainty, in the moments of doubt, that your faith is strengthened. And it's that faith, that unwavering belief in your assumption, that ultimately brings your desires into reality. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's great, but what do I do when it feels like nothing is working? How do I stop the frustration, the doubt, the constant questioning? It's a valid question, and one that so many people struggle with. The answer lies in something simple yet profound: stop looking for signs. Stop checking the external world for validation of your inner work. When you constantly check for movement, you're telling the universe, I don't believe it's happening unless I see it. And that disbelief creates resistance. Instead, what if you could live in the state of already having your desire without needing to see any external proof? What if you could wake up every day knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly, even if you can't see it? This is where the real magic happens. When you stop needing the external world to validate your internal assumptions, you free yourself from the cycle of doubt and frustration. You start living in a state of peace, knowing that your desire is already on its way. Let's go back to David for a moment. Remember, it wasn't until he stopped looking for movement that things started shifting. The same is true for Sarah. The moment she let go of her need for external validation, her manifestation came to life. This isn't a coincidence. It's the natural result of living in alignment with your assumption. And here's something most people don't realize: often the period of no movement is when the most profound shifts are happening beneath the surface. It's during these times that your assumptions are being solidified, that the universe is rearranging itself to bring you what you desire. But if you give up, if you lose faith, you stop the process before it has a chance to fully unfold. So what do you do when it feels like nothing is working? You persist. You stay in the state of knowing that your desire is already yours, even if there's no external evidence. You trust that the universe is working in ways you can't yet see. And most importantly, you let go of the need to control every step of the process. Remember, your job is not to figure out the how. Your job is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled and to live from that place of certainty. The rest will take care of itself. Now here's the part one promised you at the beginning. The one thing that most people overlook when they're in a state of no movement. Are you ready? Here it is. The moment you stop needing movement is the moment movement begins. Let that sink in. The moment you stop needing to see change, when you stop looking for evidence, you create the space for your desire to manifest. It's a paradox, but it's one of the most powerful truths in manifestation. When you're no longer attached to the outcome, when you can live in the state of already having your desire without needing proof, that's when the universe delivers. This is why so many people experience breakthroughs when they least expect it. They finally let go of the need to see movement, and in that letting go, the doors open. It's not about giving up on your desire, it's about releasing your attachment to how and when it shows up. So, the next time you're feeling frustrated, when it seems like nothing is working, remember this: your manifestation is already unfolding, even if you can't see it yet. Stay in the state of the wish fulfilled. Trust in the unseen. And when you least expect it, you'll see the movement you've been waiting for. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on Neville Goddard's teachings. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What desires are you manifesting? Leave them in the comments. and let's continue this journey together.